Hey guys, so this video is kind of intended for, or is intended for people new to the UFO subject, which from this point in history, 7/30/2023 onward throughout the rest of the 21st century will be the biggest event story in human history as far as Homo sapiens are concerned. And I want to preface this with the fact that my personal truths and my conclusions are drawn from the sources I listed in my description. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. And if I'm wrong, at least I got some cool metal songs out of this stuff. But I don't think I'm wrong, but if I am wrong, I will own up to it. I am responsible. I will not cower like a little bitch in a cave. I'll say I got it wrong. But with that piece of business out of the way, I'm going to proceed and tell what the story that I know that I have been encouraged to tell by the non-human intelligence, which actually is a human intelligence, but an evolutionary descendant. All right. So this whole thing thrives on the concept of the multiverse or block universe, as Michael P. Masters would say, or the black star, the black sun, as the future people themselves would say, which is basically all events, all potentialities, all realities, all exist, and they all can happen. So it's like there's a potentiality for anything and everything, and a universe is one slice of that. And we are but one slice of that. So here we go. There was once a universe identical exactly to ours. Evolution came to the 21st century. There were a series of cataclysmic events. Some technology was used that damaged a large portion of the Earth's crust, as far as I know. A type of portal/Stargate technology wrecked a huge part of the Earth's crust, and Earth poles were flipped, and a good 4.5 billion people died. And these were people that were at one point identical to us. And this happened in early 21st century. First 15 to 20 years is when this transpired. So what ended up happening was several thousands of years passed by. There were surface and subterranean survivors. You know, the subterranean folks were kind of folks close to the corporate elite, and you know, they had kind of planned and prepared for this. They had their own bunkers, blah, 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 etc. But the surface folks were just kind of from what I understand, your average citizen that had managed to survive on the surface. And they, at one point after, and these are very broad strokes, survived, several thousand years, gotten better technology. But technology better than what we have now, actually. And basically left for the stars, or left at one point for the moon, a colony on the moon, then a colony on Mars. Like I said, very broad strokes in the timeline. Eventually ended up third star of Orion's belt, Alma. And this is where they had basically established themselves for many thousands of years. And during this time frame, had engaged in a lot of genetic engineering to kind of do things like, say, for instance, expand lifespan, prolong, basically live longer. And ultimately they succeeded at that, living up to, 800 years, so to speak. And these people, which I'll get into later, who are here now, are what we call the Majeena, the P-52 Orions, the Tall Whites, as Charles Hall said, the Nordics, an evolutionary descendant of us. And their story is similar to the people that lived underground. Granted, they both went different places, but they're more similar than you would think. So basically, when you play God, when you try to cheat, as they call the natural grace of God, cheat evolution, you run into unintended side effects. As clever as you think you are, you cannot cheat the natural order of evolution. And what happens is unintended health side effects, such as slow healing, reduced, increased ability. Sorry, I'm not talking straight. Increased, ability to contract disease, lowered immune system, maladies. For instance, if you break your arm, it can take up to 5 years to heal, or even a broken bone can cost you your life. All kinds of immune system problems, just general strength. In general, for us, we're like gorillas compared to them as far as our fortitude and kind of thing. Whereas gorillas are much stronger than us. It's kind of the same in them. Their technology makes them far superior to speed. They can. Technologically, we don't stand a chance against them. It'd be like attacking a tank with a toothpick. Is basically kind of technological thing, but they're not. They're much faster than us, but they can't lift as much as us. So, anywho, ranting aside, their genome and I guess you could say general health has suffered at the expense of genetic engineering. So which sent them back, with exceptionary tools of control of space and time to find our universe, to come back to us, to reintegrate with us, take our DNA. There's been mating as well, has happened throughout the last 5,000 to 8,000 years, to the best of my knowledge, and to kind of combat those effects, and it's helping them. It's working. And the same thing happened to the subterranean survivors, but when they arose from the surface survivors had already left. And they had no knowledge of each other surviving. And those folks went off to, after a non-specified amount of time, which I don't know, which I hope I know someday, I hope we know for the next couple of years of disclosure, went off to the Zeta Reticuli system, which became your modern-day variant of Greys. And there's a few different versions of those. Your versions that are 24,000 years ahead, 45,000 years, and 52,000 years ahead. And I don't know much about the 45,000 years ahead version as far as classic cases. I do know they were heavily involved in abductions, but the long of it is the subterranean versions also heavily genetically modified themselves. So both groups, the surface and the subterranean survivors, had basically did the same thing. Basically, what humans do is, if there's something that you can do, they go ahead and do it. And they did, for better or worse. In this case, ultimately seems worse. So the subterranean dudes went off to Zeta Reticuli. The Roswell beings there's evidence that they are called P-24 J-rods. A J-rod is a fancy name to say however many light years it is from here to Zeta Reticuli. I'm not, because J is 15 or something. It's a weird code for however many light years from here to Zeta Reticuli. 45s, which are often don't have the most favorable view of humanity. They aren't interested in say, stopping our timeline from the same problems that they had. They are just kind of looking to solve their health problems, and even there's reports that they want us to suffer the same fate as them. Kind of an effect of like, we went through it, so you got to go through it too. It's like, we suffer, you got to suffer, you bastards. And then your P-52 J-Rods, which are allies with the P-52 Orions, which common, not just classic, but well-known in the zeitgeist of ufology is the Virginia case. Shortish figure, brownish skin, oily, with the 3 ridges. That meets the perfect description of them. They also wear different suits because they can't breathe our air too long. Some of these suits actually look full, kind of woolly, furry animals. So it almost looks like a creature of sorts. And a very interesting case in ufology was the Travis Walton case, where you had human-looking beings, which I assume were the P-52 Orions, and these brownish-looking creatures, in my opinion, was P-52 J-Rods, or as Majeena called them, Majeena. And Travis Walton, in that case, woke up having a hard time breathing, which would sustain the idea that P-52 J-Rods have a different oxygen concentration level than we do. So anyway, all that aside, it's a lot to chew through. It's a lot to digest, and I'm just trying to give a general synopsis of this. Both groups have genetically modified. Both groups have had certain advantages. Both have had prolonged lifespan. Even the Zeta Reticuli J-Rod group has had the ability to self-telepathy, as far as I know. Not the Majeena or Orions can do that with electronics, but the J-Rods can do that with just their minds, as far as I'm concerned, or no. Both have kind of hurt themselves evolutionary-wise, which has caused them to hop to this universe, ancient version of their past, which is not part of the grandfather paradox for people who think, oh, you're going to kill your father, so you're not going to exist. No, it's a totally different universe. That's not how time works in this context. So they come back, they take DNA, interbreed, and reinvigorate themselves. And at this point in the history, the P-52 Orions and the J-Rods, suspension, the 2 groups that went to 2 different places in the multiverse, want to integrate with us and basically create a better society for everybody. And neither group can have us nuking the planet because it's everybody's ancestral homeworld.